you.
Hi.
Hopefully, people can find us. We just had a blip in the power 1 minute before go live. So we are here with our friends, Feminary Friday friends.
Yay.
We've been on this journey for quite a bit. We are on chapter 8 this week. And chapter 8 is sort of a continuation of this. She's embarking on basically reconceptualizing or reimagining the gospel and the whole story of scripture through the lens of Sophia. So last week we talked about Spirit Sophia, and she kind of has this beautiful segue, and she's like, well, that's not the end of the story though, because we actually have a very specific historical character to introduce into this whole reimagining, who is Christ. And so this chapter is Jesus Sophia. Is it Sophia Jesus or Jesus Sophia?
Jesus Sophia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I love because she prefaces this whole section in a very Trinitarian way, where she's like, the way we've historically and traditionally talked about the Trinity is, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But she's like, why is it always in that mode? Why aren't we doing Spirit? Why aren't we starting with the Spirit? The Spirit that is so deeply involved in all of our concrete experiences of the divine. Why are we not starting there? And instead she still reveals how hierarchy still exists even in the Trinity. As much as we want to say in traditional theological discourse, like, no, the Trinity, they're all God, they're all equal, but yet you cannot help and still sense it in your body. There's still a hierarchy that's happening.
Absolutely.
And so she wants to flip it on its end and say, let's enter this Trinitarian understanding of God through Sophia, through the Spirit, the one that hovers over the waters, the one that is a part of the creation, the one that comes through the burning bush, that comes through all of these places. And let's start there. And I love that. I love that perspective. So.
I do too. I think I was just at, so I was at a week-long experience with my school, and this theme came up over and over. And I think we were actually talking about it on our last live, weren't we, Kim? With Shelley, that our culture is so deeply committed to the idea of hierarchy that we associate, when you give a list of 3 things, we Westerners associate that the first one is the most important or the best or the carries the most weight or whatever, and then in descending order. So when we say Father, Son, Holy Spirit, we really mean order of importance, which probably isn't always the case in all places and cultures and linguistic expressions of being, but in our understanding, it's almost impossible to tease the two apart. That if we're going to list 3 qualities or people or anything, our mind automatically does this association that the first one is the most important. And that's really hard to get away from. So I like her idea, like, well, then let's flip our language.
Yeah. Well, I said last week, this was such a balm because it puts the Spirit at the forefront, and it really tells. And when I talked about it, she's reimagining the whole story with the Spirit as the main character, which is just such a different way of understanding it. And and this particular chapter is talking about Jesus, the whole story of Jesus, as what she calls a genuine spirit phenomenon, conceived, inspired, sent, covered over, guided, and risen from the dead by her power. Just casting the whole thing as her as the source of this, what she calls vivifying, force that is so powerful that it actually literally raises him from the dead. What a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah. And she talks about how when we're seeing Jesus through this Spirit lens, and not just the flesh lens. I think she called it's Christology, not Jesusology.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
but when we focus
Important.
on the flesh lens, she says that's where the distortions of Jesus can come into play.
Yes.
Like, because
Yeah.
he's male, we can take his maleness and run with it and create not the liberating spiritual force that
Right.
Jesus was. No, we can create him to be this male dominant. He is the ideal manifestation of God,
Mm-hmm.
in this male form. And so it takes for me, and I think for others, getting used to this way of seeing Jesus. I think this is I think where people start to get really, I mean, I think there's a lot of fear in
Mm-hmm.
talking about Jesus this way.
Mm-hmm.
um and I think what she does, and what I think we can all just kind of take a deep breath, is that this we are really truly talking about Christology. We're talking about the Christ.
Yes.
We're talking about Jesus, yes, but we're but like Richard Rohr always loves to say this, that Christ is not Jesus's last name.
That's
That
awesome.
that the Christ is actually a title. It's actually this
Yes.
role that is being played out through human form. Um,
Yes.
but the Christ has been in creation with us, and been revealed to us through the Spirit so many times.
Yes.
This is very deeply a Celtic understanding.
Mm.
Um, is that
Mhm.
creation is a Christology, that Christ comes through creation.
Mm.
And I remember Richard Rohr saying in his Universal Christ. Actually, let me find the quote, because he says it so profoundly. Because I think what she's trying to do in this chapter is two things. Like, she's trying to fix our idea of anthropology. Like,
Mhm.
like are we gonna deal with anthropology in the gender space either dualistically, like so strong
Mhm.
dualistically, like man, woman, totally separate characters, or another way that people try to deal with anthropology is like, well, we're just the same. And she's like, well, that doesn't fix anything.
That doesn't help either.
And so she talks about this more, it's more diverse. There's this
Yes.
diversity. There's this room for multiplicity, like that we can all
She
carry
calls
all
it
these.
multipolar.
Yeah, multipolar.
Mhm.
And
Let me throw this in while you're
yeah,
finding this quote,
yes,
because for anybody who's like not able to yet wrap their minds around this concept, what we're getting at, I love how she points out, look, there are several things that Jesus identifies as biologically and culturally, historically, that are his identifiers. One being that he's in a male body, one that he's in a Middle Eastern body,
yes,
another that he speaks Aramaic, the language of his people. He's geographically tied to a certain region, starting in Nazareth, right? All of these identifiers describe him in the historic sense,
yeah,
but we don't say, oh, Middle Eastern people are the image of God more than people from Southeast Asia, right? We don't say that, because that would be foolishness. All people bear God's image. But for some reason, for the longest time, actually, I have a few theories. I bet you do too about the reasons we have affixed to the maleness. And well, that is the most godlike expression. What did she call it? Theos. Oh, she
yes,
had a
I have it.
beautiful word. What do you have?
Theocratic. Hold on. Oh,
Theocratic.
theomorphic.
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 That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, she
that
says
male.
what androcentric anthropology already holds as a basic assumption, Christology confirms men are not only more truly theomorphic, but in virtue of their sex also more Christomorphic, in a way that
Right.
goes beyond what is possible for a woman. And so this is kind of where this
Mhm.
argument against ordination for women comes from,
Yep.
is that men, thanks to their natural resemblance, I love
I
that.
hate this sentence. Here it comes.
She says, enjoy a capacity closer identification with Christ than women do. They enjoy
Boo.
I know. enjoy a capacity closer to Christ than women do. And that's where this is where I think Richard Rohr and Elizabeth Johnson are trying to fix our idea of what the Christ is. Like, what is the Christ? Who and what was the Christ in Jesus? Like, and this is this quote and from Richard Rohr, and he's just trying to, people are so freaked out about this book thinking he's all a universalist, but he kind of is a universalist, but he's a Christian universalist. Like, he's a Christ universalist. People just need to be okay with this.
People just need to take a deep breath.
They don't have to. They can wrestle through it. I'll let them wrestle, Right. My point is this, he says, no. So he says basically, but instead of saying that God came into the world through Jesus, maybe it would be better to say that Jesus came out of an already Christ-soaked world. The second incarnation flowed out of the first, out of God's loving union with physical creation. I mean, that's such a spirit. That's a Sophia. That's a spirit thing. Like Christ already, Jesus came out of already a Christ-soaked, spirit-soaked world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's like to sit with that for a little bit.
Just let that sit.
Well, and here's the thing.
Richard. Thank you, Father Richard.
Thank you, Father Richard.
I feel like he's got the same idea that Elizabeth Johnson has, and she uses some different terms. And kind of like the universal Christ is the Rohrian Richard Rohr's concept.
Yeah.
But she kind of uses this concept of, gosh, I hope I can find it. It's basically, she says Jesus Sophia personally incarnates. So it's almost like it's like Jesus Sophia are this one single kind of unit. And she often says, so the divine Sophia incarnate in Jesus. So it's just this whole idea, like you're saying, it's like he came out of, he is a part of what the Spirit was already doing in creation. So that those two things both kind of physically show us in a physical, tangible way who this Sophia Spirit is.
Yes. I know. Oh my goodness. The heart of the problem is not it.
And I love too that she spends a lot of time talking about the way that Jesus interacted with women, and really kind of reorienting the whole thrust of the gospel. And this is liberation theology, right? We've kind of talked about this from the beginning. Like, liberation theology is a genre, I guess you could say, a stream within the Christian tradition that puts the emphasis of the good news on the dignity, the kind of empowering and dignifying people who have historically been oppressed or marginalized. And women are, definitely a part of that. And so her observation of the way that Jesus interacted with women specifically is kind of evidence that this is what the good news is.
I love how she says in this dying and rising paragraph, mine starts on 158, not sure what pagination you have. It says, indeed, he descended into hell being shattered, a term used elsewhere in the Gospels only of women. That really speaks to me that because what she's exploring here is like, hey, what is not assumed is not redeemed. Is that the ancient phrase, right? That like whatever Christ does not whatever Christ doesn't experience, he can't redeem. And so in so many ways, he can relate to the experience of women, even though he did not manifest in a female body. Although I wouldn't be shocked if after the end of all things, we were to find out that he had like ovaries or, that he was an intersex being. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's mind blowing. I'd be like, no, that tracks.
Well, here's the thing, Annie, that I think is pretty. It's a pretty simple argument to anyone who wants to go to battle for Jesus's maleness, like
Mm-hmm.
seeing it as more Christomorphic.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, just like you said earlier, that Jesus is a historical man in a very specific time and place and culture. Here's the thing, like, I believe if he was like, he needed to come as a man in that actual culture, because like she said, I don't know where she said somewhere, but it's totally what I have understood to be true, that Jesus came to actually repudiate the hierarchy and the patriarchy that was happening, because a woman washing washing the feet of disciples would be like, oh, this is her normal role, not not a man. But this is the thing, Jesus continued to do like anti-patriarchal tasks, letting a woman wash his feet, and and the interactions he had with people, and even the cross. Like, she really taught, she's the atonement theory. What's the one that the atonement theories, the one that Christ had to die because of God's wrath. What is that one called?
Penal substitution.
Penal substitution. I feel like I just try not to remember that term.
Let's forget it as quickly as we can. No, thank you, John Calvin.
But she just says feminist theologians cannot abide by that whatsoever.
No.
Because obviously Jesus's life was constantly standing in solidarity with the marginalized, pushing back on the hierarchy and those who oppress the poor. Like, the cross is just that continuation, that full, what she says, this full connection with human suffering. Like,
yes.
To redeem it. That's the thing. It's like, what is not assumed cannot be redeemed. And
well, she says there's no credibility to this idea that the maleness of Jesus is a particular part of, that has particular significance in the story. The thing that does have particular significance is the fact that he has a preference for the marginalized. That is the only particularity that matters. All of the other
because
things, race, his religion, his gender,
his eye color, his skin tone.
Yeah. Let me read this quote here. The cross. So she says, after she kind of pulls apart the penal substitution atonement, she says, the cross thus stands as a poignant symbol of the kenosis of patriarchy, the self-emptying of male dominating power in favor of the new humanity of compassionate service and mutual empowerment. On this reading, Jesus's maleness is prophecy announcing the end of patriarchy.
Yes. That's right.
Bring it in.
Let's have all of this for breakfast.
I know.
Well, she kind of goes on, she's mostly on this kind of defensive, like she's kind of picking apart some of this male-centric thinking. Yeah. And then she goes on the offensive and she says, trivializing the incarnation by stressing Jesus's maleness is heresy, even blasphemy. I'm like, you go.
That's right.
It's really true, because here's the thing. It's like, because if you're still so focused on the flesh and the particularities, and not the universality of what Christ is actually doing on the cross for all of humanity, bringing us into this community of redeemed human flourishing, then you kind of miss the point.
You do. And this is helpful for me. I'd heard this before and it came up last week in class. 300 years before Christ's incarnation, Plato prophesied that if a God were to come in human form, we would capture him, torture him, and crucify him.
Wow.
That humanity would not stand for an incarnate God, a perfect human. And he literally predicted the way we would treat Jesus, right? And so that's really helpful to me looking back retrospectively. Did Jesus come to stand as a substitution between me and God and a propitiation for my sin? Or were we always going to crucify pure love no matter what? Is there a better way to look at this? And this is really beautiful for me as I'm thinking about now. I'm done with my coursework for my master's, and now I'm thinking about, okay, what do I write my thesis on? How do I weave all of these important themes that have been coming up in me together? And I'm so delighted to find right here at the foundation, at the crux of all of my theology is I am now invited more and more fully to say I reject the idea of an angry God demanding blood sacrifice and death, and Jesus going, no, don't do it to Annie. I'll take her sin and all. This is such a breath of fresh air to find right here that at the heart of feminist theology is an utter rejection of that pagan ideology that God would require blood sacrifice in order to forgive, in order to love, in order to accept. And that there's something much deeper happening on the cross than Jesus taking my punishment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very liberating. It's also very infuriating because the historical creation of that atonement theory had a lot of motivation from empire to create something that just infused fear and total obedience from the subjects, from the subject.
Well, and I think today in our culture, it's palatable to people who have privilege. It's like if you are, a fairly wealthy person in the US, who has not experienced being marginalized, like the whole kind of concept of liberation theology, it either requires you to become like a social justice advocate, or that's actually what it requires. It requires you to kind of model Jesus as opposed to enter into a relationship of I need you to kind of make this payment for me, and I'm willing to, give money to the church, or, it's like it requires so much. And so this other model where it's like the gospel just requires you to go to church, and not really consider what's the bigger story of like, how do we actually go through the process of liberation for all people, flourishing of all people, and dismantling a lot of the power structures. Like, that's scary stuff. It's not very convenient.
Well, and here, this is where I think Sophia, like Jesus is Sophia's child. Like what does she call it? Sophia Jesus, but really this is like
the child of wisdom.
The child of wisdom.
Yes.
And Kim, as you were talking, Jesus is so wise. It's just coming out of him. And it reminded me of the rich young ruler who walked away sad. Like, he came to Jesus and he's like, I've done all of this for you. What else can I do? And Jesus says, well, go sell all you have, give it to the poor, and follow me. And the rich young ruler was like, that's just too much. I can't do it. And this is where, Kim, I think you just made such a huge point, is that liberation theology is actually really threatening to the people who benefit from structures of hierarchy. They just do.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think so it's just like this other story that we have, which is like, well, you can be cleansed, and then you get to have a personal relationship, and then you get to basically live a comfortable life afterward. Like, it's kind of a nice religion, it's not very uncomfortable. I mean, there is a whole component of it where you have to like tell your friends and invite them to church, but everybody ignores that anyway.
Yeah, there's the evangelistic super. I remember I have a side note. Okay, so growing up in the weird purity culture with all the conferences and all the evangelical, evangelizing conferences. Anybody went to any of those? Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
went to, I remember in high school, I went to this like Share Jesus with Your Friends conference. There was probably like 300 of us in this huge church in Anchorage, Alaska. And they like made us like create this like elevator pitch for Jesus. And so we had to we're all sitting there writing our elevator pitch. We're trying to, we're distilling our story down to 3 minutes. Like if you were stuck in an elevator with a non-believer, how would you share Jesus? And so yeah, that was the whole premise. And so we did it. And then what they did, I could not believe they did this. After we like created our elevator pitch, they like literally set 300 teenagers free out onto the streets of Anchorage for like, they gave us 30 minutes to go evangelize.
I did the same thing, Colette. I was on, have you guys ever heard of Mackinac Island?
No.
It's a East Coast thing. It's up in Michigan. Yes. So same thing, college students, but yes.
Same thing. Go out.
Mackinac Island.
We're sending you out. You have 30 minutes to share the gospel as many times as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that go, Colette? Did you win some souls for Christ?
So like a true Enneagram 7, I did what I want and I didn't do it.
You just ignore it. It's like, okay, well, who cares?
I'm going to go get a latte. I'll be back in 30 minutes. I'm not going to do that. I just had it was just a gut feeling that I was thinking to myself, it's not only uncomfortable, but it also felt so, in one sense, dehumanizing. This is the thing that is so tricky.
Yes.
This is the tricky part, is that for me, I always felt like I knew that Jesus was so much more relational than a 3-minute elevator pitch. And I just couldn't bring myself to not get to know these people, not understand their stories. I mean, I could be showing up to somebody and giving my 3-minute elevator pitch to a single mom who just lost one of her children. And it's like, I mean, even if she's like, oh, great, I believe in Jesus. I'm like, great, that's awesome. Bye. Instead of like, do you need groceries? Like, do you need somebody to bring you groceries?
Yes.
I mean, I wish that if the true Sophia Christology movement came really through some of these ridiculous conferences, it would be like, go out. I need you to find the needs of all the neighbors. What are people needing? Are they needing food? Are they needing? Are they just needing support? Childcare. Someone to like help them with the bus route or to pick them up and drop them off. Okay, there we go. Then we come back and then we say, how can we meet these needs as the church? I'm sorry, that is the movement of Jesus.
That is the movement of Jesus. That is the Sermon on the Mount with boots on the ground.
Yeah.
This reminds me of, did either of you ever see the skit that was prevalent in evangelical circles in the 90s? 5 Ways to Sell a Vacuum?
No.
I have not heard of this.
It is exactly what you imagine, kind of like encouraging the youth to think about the very best way you could sell this vacuum to somebody. Like, you have to convince them that they need a vacuum. You have to show them how this vacuum helped clean up your living space, and then tell them where they can get their own. Like, this is how the Christian faith needs to be spread.
And this is where I feel like, Elizabeth Johnson is kind of bringing it in for all of us, because it's like, if we're so focused on, in one sense, this Jesusology, like we're just like, people need Jesus, people need Jesus, people need Jesus, and we're forgetting the Christ part. We're forgetting the Christ. We're forgetting that what Richard Rohr says at the beginning of his book about this one woman who had kind of this vision sitting on a bus, and all of a sudden all she saw was little Christs all around her. Everyone was this manifestation of Christ, and she just saw the Spirit of God coming through everybody, and it completely transformed her. And this is the thing, what if we could go out and we could see God, we could see Christ coming through people? Wouldn't we approach them differently? Wouldn't we talk to them differently? Wouldn't we want to give them a drink of water? Kind of like what Jesus is talking about, like, where his disciples come to him and be like, "Where did we see you poor and thirsty and hungry?" And it's we're so backwards,
We're so
in the
backwards.
way that we want to. And I think that's where wisdom comes in. Like, we're not allowing the Spirit, we're not seeing Jesus through the Spirit, Sophia, through this wisdom, through this lens of seeing all of creation and all of humanity. So
There's a statue, I think it's in Capernaum. I did a Holy Land tour a few years ago, and I think it's in Capernaum, but I could be wrong. I came upon this statue and I was really like, I was confused. It's the statue of like a poor man. You can tell he's probably like lives on the streets, right? And he's lying down on a bench and he's like asleep. And I'm looking at this, and then I look at his feet and they've got holes in them. And I look up at his hands and they're like clutching his, wrap around him, and they also have holes. And I'm like, wait, so is this statue trying to depict like Jesus homelessness? And then my husband's like, no, honey, he's like, he gets it, right? He's like, this is inviting us to see every person as Christ, right? The beggar who's sleeping on the bench is Christ. Whew.
That is so powerful, because
what
Kim and I and all of us have experienced in the nice packaged Jesus we all grew up with is not that. But boy, is it easy to hang out in that space. It doesn't cost us a whole lot to hang out with nice, clean, packaged, believe in his name, Jesus. It doesn't cost us.
To be clear, I am still in that category. Like,
how so?
I don't think I just, in the sense that like, it is my tendency to want to be comfortable and stepping outside to connect with that person on the streets is still challenging. Like, I'm not saying that I've read this book now and I'm like living the way that Jesus did.
Got it.
I know.
But I do think that that's why the gospel has taken off. That has grown such deep roots in our specific society. If you go to church, it's, full of people who are comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's where, and in that environment, what people want to hear is Jesus loves you, and like you've got a friend in Jesus. And so I just want to say, like, I don't feel holier than thou. I just understand, why this is radical.
Yeah.
This is radical.
It is calling us to such a different way of thinking, and we can, and I think the beauty of a community is that we can kind of spur each other on. And like, Annie, your kind of radical acts that you've been, shaving your head, for example. I just think that as a community, when one person steps into something that is a little bit uncomfortable, it challenges all of us to do the same.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Carl in our chat just posted a Wikipedia article for the homeless Jesus.
Love it.
Okay, I'm going to just copy that and put it in my thing to look at next time. Thank you.
Well, Kim, thank you for infusing this conversation with definitely humility. Because in one sense, we're all really the rich young ruler. Like, there really is the moments where we're going to walk away from the message of Jesus sad because we don't want to pay the price. Sometimes we will, sometimes we won't. I think that's the rich young, I feel like we're always being presented with that liberating opportunity from Jesus.
Which is why Jesus says, whatever you've done to the least of these, my brethren or sister, and my siblings, you're doing unto me. Like this invitation to see the Christ in every person. And it's something that we need to come back to probably daily, is regrounding ourselves. Yes, Kim, we are so conditioned by our culture and also just by our human nature to seek comfort and pleasure and move away from pain. And so it's just kind of part of our conditioning. But Jesus' invitation is just continue to return and see the Christ in each person and love that person and feed my lambs.
Well, and this is a good segment to the way Elizabeth Johnson moves the Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Like that the Christ is still very much alive in the body, in the movement of the church. Where what Kim's, what we've been talking about, it holds us accountable, and it encourages us
Mm-hmm.
to press forward in this liberating spirit of Jesus. And I love this quote by Sandra Snyders, where she really explains it well, how the Christ is not exclusively glorified in Jesus, but glorified in the body. And so she said, the Christ is not exclusively the glorified Jesus, but the glorified Jesus animating his body, which is the church. Christ said to Paul, "Why do you persecute me?" Because the literal fact is that the Christ is composed of all the baptized. That means that Christ, in contrast to Jesus, is not male, or more exactly, not exclusively male. Christ is quite accurately portrayed as black, old, Gentile, female, Asian, or Polish. Christ is inclusively all of the baptized.
Imago Christi.
Imago Christi.
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Well, I think this is for me, this is the quote, right? Like this is so captures why this chapter and this whole book is so essential. Because I have said, I feel like my journey has been going from evangelical to ex-evangelical to extra evangelical. And the extra is that I really do want people to encounter the Sophia spirit in Jesus. Because this is why Jesus Sophia's solidarity with suffering people in the name of God, even to death, diagrams the heart of Sophia God, the essence of her way with the world. If we can pass that along to people, and we do create a movement, and more people join that movement, empowered by Sophia God, then we're making progress.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. No elevator pitches needed.
No, let's see the people. Let's see the Christ in them.
Yes. Oh man.
Okay, so I brought show and tell.
Oh.
I had an unexpected, delightful privilege this last week. I was in the cafeteria at school, and one of the teachers walked in with a man I didn't recognize. And, I'd met most of the people associated with the school in that building that week. And so I just kind of I had this moment where I looked at this man coming in with one of the teachers, and I almost heard a bell, go and say hello, go and find out who that man is. And I was like, okay. So I walked past them and I said, oh, hi, I'm Annie. Who are you? And he goes, oh, my name is David. And the teacher said, oh, David used to be a pastor. And I was like, oh, good gracious, how you doing? Bless you. That's hard work, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, thank you very much. So we had a laugh about serving the Lord in some hard ways. And then I went back to what I was doing. A minute later, somebody said, do you know who that is? No, that's the naked pastor. And I was like, what? I had never known his name in real life. So if anybody follows the naked pastor online, he draws incredibly poignant religious cartoons, and he does other forms of artwork that are just incredible and really thought-provoking. I do too. So then, to my delight, he was the guest speaker in our class that afternoon. So he did a whole presentation and showed us his art, and get this. he did this book. I hope you can see it here. The Liberation of Sophia. It's a series of, I can't remember, I think he said maybe 57 works of art that the Spirit just inspired him to illustrate what Sophia looks like to him. So it's absolutely beautiful, poignant art. I'm going to show you a couple here. This one is called Suspended, and I'll let you just gaze upon it and kind of see what comes up. But in all of these illustrations, Sophia is personified by this bold, brave woman, and sometimes she's a girl. And I'm going to look for this other one. Oh, here, this one is really impactful. Here is Sophia. She's staring at the mouth of a cave, as you can see.
Yeah.
That one, oh, that one's just called Cave. And then my very favorite one, I'm going to try and locate here. I just got this in the mail. I think I opened the box yesterday.
Now I know I have to buy it. Now I have to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he gives a kind of poetic explanation of each of them. Okay, I'm not finding it right now. Somebody else say something. I'm going to leave.
Well, I will tell you, Annie, that last September, I hosted a retreat with some other women from my church, and we used that book.
Oh,
you know this book?
Yes. And so what we did was we cut out all the pictures and we placed them around the room, and you would find one that drew you. And the whole theme of it was exploring your shadow. And it was so good. It was, yes, when you said that naked pastor, I was like, is that the same guy?
Yeah. Here is the one he showed us first that I just love. This one is called Fearless. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
So the image of, so it's the image, this is like a big mama grizzly.
Oh, okay.
And here's this little girl in the woods, and she meets the grizzly and is like, look, I have a teddy bear. And nobody's afraid of each other, right? There's just like this recognition. And this is how I am encountering the Spirit of God in Sophia form. Like, yes, powerful grizzly. And I'm invited to hold up my little teddy bear and say, oh, do you want to play?
Oh, Annie, I love that so much. I did not know that. I mean, I've been following his work for some time, but I didn't realize that he has a book on that. So
yeah,
more things to play.
That's beautiful.
More things for the collection. More evidence that Sophia is here working, creating through us, and connecting us all.
I know it is really beautiful, and I think that is really the purpose. This is the big, like, motivating factor for I think for just women theologians and Jesus Sophia is to create a flourishing community of people where all people can flourish, all people.
Yeah.
And there's no hierarchy.
Right.
We're just giving to one another out of divine love and compassion and service. And that's just it.
That is the kingdom of heaven on earth.
That is the kingdom of heaven on earth. So
a beautiful community, the beloved community.
Beloved community.
Yeah.
Well, I love the way she ends this chapter. She says, there is still more to say.
Yes, we are not nearly done.
She's getting us ready for the next chapter, which is Mother Sophia.
Ooh.
Okay.
So we went through Spirit Sophia, Jesus Sophia, and chapter 9 is Mother Sophia. So I will be digging into this week. I have been just loving this kind of cadence of reading something really rich and then talking about it afterward and soaking in it. And so thank you both for creating this space together. And thank you, those of you who got a chance to join our late link.
Hi, friends. Thanks for being here. We're
so cool to see you,
so
Carl.
glad to see you.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you guys next week.
So we'll see you. Yes, I won't be on the call next week because I will be away for more travels, but
Okay.
I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay. Well, we'll decide when we do it. If we do
Yeah.
it, Colette's free too.
Okay.
So, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Peace and love.
Bye.
Bye.
Love.